of all the peninsula. So you can see over here in blue what is going to be his kingdom. So this is why I do not quite accept what your book says, because if you go to page 330 and 331, 330 and 331, then it is going to say that the last emperor is going to live silently, quietly. And that is not the case, because he's going to be defeated by Odoacer, and he's going to, Romulus is going to give back the power to the Eastern Emperor. So by this action, the empire is going to fall. As it says here, the 5th century ends in 476 after Christ, when Romulus is going to send all the signals of power, all the imperial signals to the Eastern Emperor, and he's going to leave the empire, and thus it is going to be over. The Western Empire is going to finish in 476. And Odoacer is going to be the king of Italy, and the Visigoths are going to be ruling over all this territory, and the Vandals are going to be ruling over the north part of France. And these are going to be like the three main kingdoms that we're going to be seeing over here. And of course, in the north, the Franks that are going to be ruling over what is now France, and the Anglos and the Saxons, that are going to be forming the Anglo-Saxon tribes, are going to be ruling over Britain. And of course, we have over here over other kingdoms, but they are going to be minor kingdoms compared to the Franks. The Ostrogoths that are going to be ruling all this part over here, the Vandals that are going to be ruling over the northern part of Africa. And this is not going to last, because some of you have seen that after a few years we're going to see how the Muslims are going to enter, and they're going to start expanding their territory, and they're going to enter Africa, and they're going to conquer all these territories, and they're even going to conquer Spain. So this is not going to last, but this is going to be like the first configuration of all these kingdoms, following all these events in which the Foederatis are going to be working with Rome, and at the same time they are going to be working against Rome. Because remember, for example, Ataulf is going to be working, yes, for Rome, but he's going to be married to the sister of the emperor, but he's always also going to be conspiring against the emperor, and he's going to be supporting other people to proclaim themselves as emperors in order to weaken the power of the actual emperor, that by that time was Honorus. So this is the problem, that Rome allowed all these people to come into their territory in exchange for military services, and then these people are just going to destroy the empire. But as I was telling you, they weren't being treated fairly, because they were being treated as second-class citizens. Perhaps you should think this about like the Latins, or the Latin Americans in the United States now, because the United States is more or less allowing Latin Americans to enter the territory, but they are not going to be, of course some people are, but many people in the United States and the government sometimes, for example, think about Donald Trump, are going to be treating these Latin Americans as second-class citizens, as people that are less important, that have less rights, that have less dignity. They are going to be treating them with less dignity, and that is exactly the problem here. They are admitting these people into the territory. They are, of course, charging them. They are going to ask for some services in return, and those services are going to be military services, but they are not going to be treating them with the respect that humans deserve, right? They are going to be saying, oh, we are the Romans, we are above all the peoples, but of course these peoples are going to be fighting for the empire, and they are going to be paying their wage in blood and in men, and they are going to be suffering, and they are going to be fighting for the empire, and the empire is not going to be treating them fairly. So they are going to be rebelling against the empire. The Vandals, the the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, and all these peoples that are going to be entering the empire. And as Latin Americans enter the USA, also these peoples are entering the empire, trying to achieve a better life, and the empire is not going to be treating them fairly. So I will ask you to go to your page 600 and 601, and you're going to be having this map over here. I took the picture from your book, and I will ask you to read just that page because, well, of course, in here we're going to have what I was telling you. We're going to have these main kingdoms that are going to be settling in the first, by the end of the 5th century. So we're going to have the Visigoths, we're going to have the Franks. The Burgundians are going to be like always fighting with the Franks, always fighting with the Visigoths, and also the Ostrogoths that was. The part that Odoacer conquered, and we also have over here the Vandals that you remember that were the ones that conquered the northern part of Rome, and both the Western Empire and the Eastern Empire tried to recover these territories from the Vandals, and they were unable. And over here we have what is left of Rome, the Eastern Empire. But the rest of the empire that was the Western Empire is going to be divided now into these kingdoms, and these kingdoms are going to be ruled by the peoples that used to be the Foederati, that used to be these people that were allowed into the empire and that were paying their services, their military services, in exchange for living in the empire, but that are not they are not going to be treated fairly, and thus they are going to fight against the empire. And now we're going to be seeing what I was telling you. This is going to be the conclusion, and this is going to be how we are going to be characterizing the 5th century. So if the point is to be working like this, precisely like this, then we're going to do it just now. Remember that this format is thought of as to be working with cards. This format is thought of to work with cards, but we're not going to be working with cards because I'm not going to be sending you to the stationaries to buy those cards. So remember that you're going to be doing these notes after your notes, because of course you're going to be taking your notes about these videos. After your notes, you're going to be making this format as a conclusion. Remember that you're going to take half your page, and we're going to be having this characterization of the century. So how can we characterize the 5th century? Well, again, the 5th century starts in 410. Why? Because it is the point in which Alaric sacks Rome for the first time, and it is going to be ending in 476. Why? Because it is when the last emperor, when Romulus is going to be abdicating the throne because Odoacer defeats him, and he's going to be sending all the signals of power of Rome to the Eastern Emperor. So this is a really short century, because as you can see here, from the first sack of Rome that was directed or carried out by Alaric and the Visigoths, on all the way to 476, in which Odoacer is going to be defeating the last emperor, it only passes 66 years, so it is a really short century. What are the main transformations? Well, the state of things that was happening by the start of this century was that we had the Roman Empire, and that all these peoples that entered the Roman Empire were foederati, so they were under the control of Rome. They were living in the empire in exchange for their military services. And what is the second state of things? How does this century end? Well, now we have the barbaric kingdoms. We started with the Western Roman Empire, and we ended with the barbaric kingdoms. So that is going to be the main transformation of the century. We're going from one state to another state, and the first state of things is the Roman Empire, and the second state of things, by the time that the century ends, is going to be the barbaric kingdoms, that are these kingdoms over here. And now we're going to be including some of the most important events, or some of the most important processes that we're going to be seeing. And remember that I want you to highlight the one that is going to be marking the start of the century and the end of the century. So first we have the sack of Rome by the hands of Alaric. Then we have the Battle of the Catalonian Plains, that remember that is the battle in which the Visigoths are going to fight for Rome, and they are going to be defeating Attila. And then we have that both empires fail against the Vandals, because this is really going to be important, because imagine that you do not only have the Western Empire fighting against them, you also have the Eastern Empire, and however they are going to be losing against the empire. We have the Vandals sacking Rome after this event, and finally how Odoacer deposes Romulus. So this is going to be everything for today's class. Remember that you are going to have the videos, but I am seeing that not all of you are seeing the videos. So what I am doing now is that after the videos, after the class, I am giving you some extra questions so you can answer those questions and you can gain points. So in that way, you may decide to actually watch the videos and actually enter the classes and solve your doubts, so you are able to answer the questions and gain some points. So remember, what's the process? Well, all these foederati, mainly the Visigoths, are going to be one of the most important, are going to be fighting for Rome and also against Rome, until Rome finally falls to these foederati people, and these foederati people are going to be settling the kingdoms that are going to be characterizing the Middle Ages in Europe. So thank you very much, boys and girls, and I will be solving your questions now.